Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am dressed like this because Halloween is tomorrow. And I thought this is really the only time this year that I could wear a cool costume. I got this months ago for a couple dollars and I was so excited. So I've been waiting all year to be Waldo, and so here I am. I'm going to share with you today the books that I read in October. I am a homeschooling mom to 4 kids. I'm super busy between teaching my 4 kids, trying to run a household and keep our house remotely clean, feeding these people that always need fed, and having a YouTube channel along with opening an inn. I don't have a ton of free time, but I do love to read. So on my channel, I want to start doing a what I read this month kind of thing video every single month because I love watching other people do those. But I will probably never come to you with 12 books that I read this month because I don't have time to read that much. But I do have 3 books that I read this month. So I'm trying to read more for myself. I do use the Libby app a lot, and I use my earbuds, and I listen to my books while I am cutting the grass and while I'm doing the dishes or doing laundry or cleaning, or I have a little game that's like a Game Boy, but it's got preloaded games on it. So honestly, at the end of the day, sometimes I will put in my audiobook and just play Dr. Mario for an hour or so, and that's pretty awesome. I do love that. So let's talk about what books that I read this month. So the first book that I read this month was amazing. It's called The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. This book is the biography of her life and all the things that she did for Christ. And she was a very strong Christian woman who was never married, and they talk about that some in the book. And it was kind of a sad situation leading up to her not getting married. I won't spoil that for you, but that was really interesting because I didn't know about her that, you know, she may have gotten close to that in the past, and saw that that wasn't the Lord's will for her life. So, but she was such a strong woman, not having a husband, living with her father and her older sister who also never married. And their goal was to tell others about Christ. Their goal was to save these people. So she lived in Haarlem in the Netherlands, and her family had a watchmaking business, and they used this watchmaking business to help the Jews that were being persecuted over there and were being killed for just being Jews. And they started hiding them in her house, which is why it's called The Hiding Place. And they went through all this trouble to make a room for the Jews to come in, and they would just kind of word of mouth, people would hear that, hey, is this the place that we can come to hide so that we're not going to get put in jail or killed or put at a concentration camp or things like that. The word of mouth spread, and people were constantly coming to their house. They would hide them. They had these signals set up to where if someone did come to the door, whether it was a guard or just someone that they didn't want to know that people were staying there, they would do something so that the people would hide right away, and there was no evidence. I mean, it was amazing. Like some of those stories about how they were, they had 20 people sitting at the table eating dinner, and they hear the bell ring or whatever it was that happened, knowing that someone was coming in, and within a minute of whoever it was that answered the door, keeping the person away, probably less than a minute, they would have the room completely set for just the 4 of them or the 3 of them or whoever had been there who were supposed to be there. There was no evidence of these Jews ever being there. It was amazing. It was really cool how they had this whole system set up. The story goes on with her eventually it being found out that that they were hiding these Jews. And so her and her father got taken away, and her sister, and then they talk about her life in the concentration camp, which is just terrible. But through all this, her and her sister always see the bright side of things, and that the Lord is using them to share the gospel with these other ladies that they're in the concentration camp with. It was amazing. I mean, it being a true story, it was very, I would say, life-changing, for me, just seeing that, I may complain about my life, and she's in a room with, 100 women in a bunk bed full of fleas, and it was just amazing. But they love the Lord, and it's a really good story. So if you have not read this yet, it was really good to listen to, too. I actually listened to this one on audiobook, and it was really good. I give this 5 stars because it was just so good, and it was something that I would want to read over and over again. I would like my kids to read when they get a little bit older, but it was really good, very encouraging, and just cool to read a true story about somebody like that just really devoted their life to helping other people. So That was a really good book. Check it out. Okay, so the second book that I read is called Last Light by Terry Blackstock. Terry Blackstock is my favorite author. I have read most of her books, but this series that has 3 books in it, Last Light, True Light, and Dawn's Light. No, there's 4 books. Last Light, Night Light, True Light, and Dawn's Light. My mom actually gave me the whole series last year, I think sometime, and I think I had started this a little bit. That's what happened. Actually was on my way home to visit my mom and my sister. I was actually able to fly home. My husband and kids stayed here where we live, and I flew home to see my family who lives states away. And I brought this book with me because I was like, I'm going to read. I've got all this time in the airport and in the plane. And I didn't know that this book starts out with plane crashes, planes crashing into the airport and all this crazy stuff. And so I'm sitting in the airport reading this book, and I was like, I haven't flown in many years. I don't think I'm going to read this. So I actually just stopped and set it aside. It was a little too real with getting ready to get on a plane that I was like, I don't think I need to read this right now. So about a year later, I decided to pick it up, and this was so good. I really loved it. So it starts off with a father picking up his adult daughter, or she's like late teens. I don't remember how old she is. She's like maybe 20 or something. So like right out of college. She has been away at college on her own, so she's kind of got this like big city attitude to her small town family. And so the dad picks her up in the airport, and it starts off, they're walking down like the airport terminal, and all of a sudden she sees this plane. She's like, Dad, it's gonna crash into the building. And they look, and the plane crashes. And anyway, it just continues on. So there's this big power outage of they don't even know how far, if at first if it's just the airport, and then if it's their city, and then they find out it's actually at least all of US. And the power outage has knocked out cell phones, and so emergency vehicles can't get there. There's no communication. There's no power. There's no water. There's no electricity. Nothing. So it's just really interesting because it follows this family who is very affluent. They've got a big house. They have all these cool electronic things and, all the high-tech stuff that you would have if you had a lot of money. Well, the power's out. And so now these people are having to learn how to make food with no stove and cook over a fire outside and do like hard labor that they hadn't done before. And they're pretty spoiled. And this is going to be a challenging situation. But along with that, there is a murder that happens in the town. So they're trying to deal with not having any power and not having barely any food, and people start hurting each other and stealing bikes because cars don't work, the power locks don't work, he can't pop the trunk, and anyway, all this stuff, like nothing works. Watches stop. So it was like all kinds of stuff that really didn't make sense that would stop. And so it was really interesting, but people start acting crazy, which makes sense. I'm reading this during a quarantine, pandemic, whatever it is that's happening, in the US. And I don't know, it was kind of interesting because it was like a more dramatic version of at least where I live, but it's not completely unreasonable to see these people hurting each other over a bicycle and, killing for food and different things like that. So it was weird. It was an interesting time to be reading this book now. So then they're going on trying to figure out who the murderer is, and a couple different murders happen, and it was really good. It was, someone you wouldn't expect, and I really liked it. It was a really good book, and, she's a Christian author, so it always, draws you back to the family, seeing that they need to pray more, and they need to read their Bible more, and stuff like that, without being, like, heavy, or they start a little church service that they see that the people need so bad, so it's not, like, heavy Christian, but there's no bad words in this book. There's nothing inappropriate. I just love this author. So I haven't seen anything from Terry Blackstock yet that I didn't like, but this was really good. So I am excited to read the next book, which is Nightlight. I gave this book 4 stars. I loved it. I thought it was really good. So I thought it was 4 stars. It wasn't, I'm new to this like book rating thing with the stars and stuff, but I didn't think it was necessarily life-changing, but it was really good. I really loved it. So I would highly recommend this book. It was really good. Okay, so the last book that I read, and I just finished a few days ago, is called Gone to Ground by Brandolyn Collins. I've read a couple books by her before and I really enjoyed them, so I thought this one would probably be good. So I started this book like a month before. I had checked it out from the library and I thought it was going to be really good, and I started reading it. And the first 3 chapters, it's one of those books where each chapter follows a different person. So the first chapter, you know, followed this girl named Tully. And the second chapter was Cherry May. And then the third chapter was this other girl. I can't remember her name. Each chapter followed a different person. And that was hard for me at first. I haven't really read a book like that. I think I may have before, but not in a long time. Where you have to kind of get into the character. And I know it takes some time to develop. But by like the third chapter, I was like, what? Who is this supposed to be? And how are these people related? And it was kind of annoying to me, so I put it aside and I didn't read it. And then I picked it back up again a few weeks later, and I was like, okay, let me try this again. I know this author is good. She's got to be good. Let me just try again. So then I kept reading. I think I reread the first 3 chapters because it had been a few weeks and I forgot what it was about. But then once I got to like maybe the second set of reading another chapter about that person, sometimes I had to look back at the title of that chapter and see, okay, we're talking about Tully. I did finally get the reason behind that, because we're supposed to see the story behind all 3 of these people's point of view and see their perspective. And anyway, I understood it, and once I got into it, it was really good. So if you try this book, give it a chance and get to where it's not just the first chapter introducing each person. Give it a little bit longer, because I was not sure about that in the beginning. One thing I did love about this book that I don't think I've read in a book before was the accents. They're all from the South. I think they're from Texas, from Amarillo. And they all have this Southern accent. And the author, I have no accent at all. So for me to try to I actually read this book as a book. I didn't listen to it as an audiobook. For me to have actually read it, I would have read it in my non-accent voice, probably in my head. But the way they spelled stuff, they spelled it out so that you could read that, you know, it would say, like, instead of draw, it would say D-R-A-L or something like drawl or whatever. They would spell it so that you could read it in this Southern accent that I don't have, and it was kind of cool. And that really got me into how these people, you know, I don't know, it really got me into like the setting, and that these are all Southern, you know, small town people. It was really good. I liked that. I really liked that part of the book. But anyway, I haven't even told you about the plot. Someone gets murdered in the town, and there's this person called the closet killer. So they've had multiple women that have been killed, and then after they're killed, they're put in a closet. They haven't found the person yet. And so each of these ladies thinks they know who killed this last girl, and assuming that that person also killed all of the people. But they each think it's somebody different, and they all have a reason why, and so they eventually get together and share the evidence that they have, and they become, like, they didn't even know each other before this, and they kind of like make a pact that they're gonna figure this out because they feel like the police aren't really helping. It was really good story development, and I feel like I do really appreciate how the characters were built in the way that you really felt like you knew them and understood them and what they were going through. It was a surprise twist on who the killer actually was in the end, which is always refreshing. I had actually kind of figured it out, but I am like, I watched Dateline and 48 Hours in 2020 and all those kind of shows, and I do a lot of mystery books, so I'm kind of like a pro at picking out who the murderer is going to be. But it wasn't super obvious, I don't think. I just knew. But it was really good. I really liked this book, and I would highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars also. I loved it, and would definitely want to read it again sometime down the road. So that is what I read in October. I hope this was enjoyable to you. It was fun. Thanks for having patience with me being Waldo tonight. I have been looking forward to this day for many, many months, and I hope I look amazing. If not, at least you can laugh at me, and whatever, it is what it is. Watch for next month. I will be showing a What I Read in November review at the end of November. And yeah, I guess that's it. I hope this was fun. This was fun for me to do. I love reading it. It was fun to share with you guys what I have read. You will always be able to count on my channel sharing clean books, because really there's some books that I've started. There was one audiobook I started this month that was within the first chapter. It had a couple profanity, bad words in it. And I just turned it off because I just don't like that. I don't enjoy it. I don't speak like that. So I don't want to read books like that or listen to books like that. So if you like good, clean books, stay tuned to my channel, because you can count on me that I will be reading good, clean books, and I will recommend some good books to you. So if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.